Chicago, rock and roll, Chicago, my hometown. Well, I was born in the city, gonna rock your city, Chicago. Chicago rock and rollers are the best year out around.
Hey, this is Paul Martin
and Ray the Roadie
for the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. What's up, Ray?
Not a heck of a lot. It seems like spring is springing.
Spring has sprung, and
I believe it has.
If football's over, so you got nothing to gamble on it.
You're right. I tried gambling on NASCAR. That's tough. You know, I don't know enough about basketball to put any money on that. So yeah, it seems like gambling's done.
Yeah. Well, they're not done. Gambler is not done. Gambler, the band. That's who we're talking to today.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like real gamblers at Vegas and to Harrah's and all these other casinos.
Well, I've been known to throw a 20 in a slot machine once in a while, but
yeah. You don't throw the bones? You ain't a bone thrower?
No. I like slots or else roulette. I play some roulette.
Roulette is fun, but they say that roulette is the worst odds of any game in the casino.
Well,
but it's easy and it's fun.
Probably why I play it then.
Yeah. I could say something to that, but I'm going to keep it to myself.
Okay. All right. Do that.
So, yeah, we got Gambler. How many of you guys out there remember Gambler from around, say, 1980?
Yes, I remember Gambler from around 1980.
So do I.
Maybe even late 70s.
Late 70s, early 80s. Yes, I definitely remember them. And it was great to hook up with them.
Yes, it was nice talking with them. We talked to Alex, their new lead singer, and we talked to Del Breckenfeld. He's the bass player. And we talked to Warren Mays, who plays guitar.
And there's more of them, but they just couldn't all join us today.
Right. And they're coming back. They're coming back to play a show, folks. They're coming back March 26th.
Yes, a reunion show. You can throw your money at that.
Yes,
you can gamble it. You'll have a really good time.
It's going to be at Dirty Nelly's. So be sure and get your tickets now for that.
They're on sale right now. Yep.
Go to the Gambler Facebook page and find it. But let's find out what they had to say for themselves and talk about the band a little bit.
Yeah, let's hear what they did and where they're going.
Okay, let's do it. Welcome to the show, everyone. Today, I want you to think back to 1979, 1980. You remember the band Gambler? Of course you do. Sure you do. Well, they're coming back, and we've got them right here. How you guys doing?
Hey, guys.
Hey, doing good. Doing real good.
So let's go back to 1979 or the late 70s and tell us how the band got started and how the name came about and everything else.
It's very Spinal Tap-ish, actually, because we made our fame in Chicago. And I just want to say how incredible the audience is in Chicago. They still are. But back in that time, we couldn't have done it without the audiences that supported original music. You know, one of the things was we looked at REO Speedwagon and Styx and Cheap Trick and Survivor and all these groups that were doing original music. And we were Buster, and we used to do like a part of a show where it was Zeppelin, and then a set was there was a place called Down the Street. It was 7 sets a night on weekends. You know, that was Waukegan and. But when we would do Queen, we would do all the groups that we looked up to and had big vocals and so on and on. And we had a great following. And then when we went to original music, a lot of the clubs they wanted more of the cover music. So we kind of started over. We were still Buster. But what happened was we did this WKQX hometown concert, and it was an album, and that was our big breakthrough because Mitch Michaels was so supportive of the band at KQX and a lot of other bands. And we played the show at the Uptown Theater. We knew all the other bands. They had played the club scene. But the next day, the Chicago Sun-Times story was Buster breaks out big at hometown concert. And that put us on the map. And so we started sending demos to, like all the other bands did. Back in that day, there was no Pro Tools. Horrifying, no Pro Tools. and no streaming, which maybe was good in some ways, but you couldn't really, you had to have a top quality demo, and you had to have a following. You know, it was just like social media, except it was real. People came to the clubs. So anyway, after that article, and it said Gambler is ready to record. There's a song called Walk in the Streets. It's a hit, you know. And so the record labels started coming to look at us, you know. And what happened was EMI, Atlantic, a lot of the big labels were looking not just at us, other Chicago bands. And the night we were actually playing with, you remember this, Warren, we were playing with Foreigner. And they came out to see us. And this was in Detroit because we had played regional, but they were pretty big shows, 10,000 seats. And we felt we were a great live band. That was our forte. And the next night they came, we were opening for Styx. And the difference was Foreigner, they wouldn't give us lights, and that was just typical of an opening act if you didn't know them. Styx gave us sound check, they gave us lights, they gave us everything we wanted to help us, and we had one of the best nights. And that's the night we got I remember our manager going, just got a huge offer for that time from Atlantic, but EMI really wants you. And because we had grown up with the Beatles, like anyone else from that era, and the Stones and groups like that, Queen, they were all on EMI. And we're like, oh, we want to be on that label, you know? Well, here's the Spinal Tap part. There was a group in England called Buster that had a release only in the UK. And the label, because the guy that was based out of England, they actually owned Capitol Records, Capitol EMI. And so we're in the EMI America version, but still a lot of the Capitol people. And they go, you have to change your name. And we're thinking the new Busters, you know, like Spinal Tap. So we like the name Gambler because I don't know why. Our singer used to wear a hat a lot of times and kind of the Chicago outfit look. Like the Mob, we like that band, The Mob, in the old days. I'm really going back. And anyway, so that's how it happened. It was Warren Mays, who's on the hall, of course. And it was myself, my brother Bruce on keyboards, Chuck Schwartz on drums, and Nathan Schaefer was the original singer. So that's kind of how, I didn't mean to make the version so long, but that's how we came to getting a major record deal. And that really opened the door. And the Chicago bands at that time continued to help us. I mean, REO Speedwagon had us open 2 shows at Alpine Valley. And it was 24,000 people a night. I mean, it was the most amazing thing. And that was what I saw when we got outside of Chicago in the Midwest. It's not that the bands didn't support you, but it was very competitive. It just seemed in Chicago, people wanted to, the bands of our era, we all kind of were like us against the world. And we really felt
it's more about the music, just about original music and really getting behind original music from groups.
Yeah. And I should mention one quick thing. Chicago Recording Company, which is still in existence, there was an engineer named Phil Bonanno, and we knew the owner. We had done session work and stuff, Alan Kubica, and he said, hey, we said, we need better recording, better quality. And he goes, okay, I'll give you the time, but we want you to work with this guy, Phil Bonanno. And Phil went on to do Survivor and Cheap Trick and all the other bands. Sadly, he passed away, but Phil was such an important part of our sound. So once again, being in Chicago, our first album we did in the Village, the label wanted us out in California, but our second album, Love and Other Crimes, we were able to do in CRC. And anyway, it's the Chicago connection will remain forever. And that's why we're so excited to be able to come back and do this show.
Yeah. So has the band been playing it all since that time or how's it been working?
Just one reunion show 4 years ago, be 4 years in May. That was I left. We went on through. It did two albums. Didn't sell 1 million records, make $1 million, and it kind of flows on through. We continued writing songs. There's well over 100 songs, I think, other than the album material that went on after that. But it kind of began to taper off. Looking at music changed, the disco hit, and so original rock bands weren't quite the thing that they had been before, and just the general styles of music changed. 1983, I left, moved out to California. Del and the group continued on. We had, while I was still there, we had replaced the original singer with Alex's older brother, Tony, and he brought huge number of new songs in on top of Del's output. And I left, it continued on. There was just a lot of great music that I've now caught up with. Back then, it's hard to think back. The mid '80s, no cell phones, no social media, no email was relatively new, and people weren't keeping in touch. You just had to stay in touch with people. You had to call. And remember when telephone long distance calls had extra charge? Oh gosh, no, you can't. We can't talk that long. This is going to cost a fortune. When was the last time you heard that from something other than your grandparents? So it's just, but that was, so we didn't really. We kind of stayed in touch, but not to any great extent. No one knew what was going on here. No one was going on there. It's basically over. This was. Tony's, Alex's brother, Tony, moved out here, a little bit of staying in touch, kept things going. And then sadly he got ill and passed. And as that moved on, Alex was there, was this little kid running around all the time we were rehearsing and doing shows, doing local shows and things around. We'd see him all the time. He was constantly asking, how do you play that? And what about this? And and can I borrow that? And had his own band and doing things. And then about five years ago now, probably 5 years ago or so, I hear from Alex. Basically, how you doing? Would you be interested in getting the band back together? To coin a phrase, right? Or to borrow a phrase, I suppose more accurately. We got time. I'm just kind of curious if you're interested in doing this. Well, yeah. I mean, hadn't thought about it in so many years. But yeah, that sounds like it'd be interesting as long as everybody else is interested. And then we get back through to get in touch with Del and the process of a reunion show.
Well, there was one more part of that, Warren. I have to add. Sure. So Warren, because I remember Alex as a magician too. I don't know how old you were, Alex, but you used to go
13, 12 or 13, I think.
Great Alejandro, and he's like really good. And I'm like, I'm going to see him before Copperfield. I'm going to see this guy on TV. And I had moved out to California. Got into marketing. I worked for Dean Guitars, and we did at the beginning of MTV. Dean owned the company. I was president, and we got in with ZZ Top, the spinning fur guitars on the Legs video. I glued that fur on the guitar with Dean, and I saw the power of we didn't have MTV. We were right at that, like Warren said, music was changing. Then I went to Washburn with another Chicago company, and I was at Fender. So I spent 20 years marketing director for Fender, and so I was out on the West Coast. I was working with the Kings, with Luke Robitaille, who is the Kings. His son is a musician. So that was a connection. And Warren goes, hey, Alex is coming in. He wants to talk to you about the thing. And he's singing the national anthem at the Kings game. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, I knew he could sing, but I'm like, well, that's pretty heady stuff. So we go to the show. I took my daughter, Shanna, who's lived out here, and Warren and I, and Warren's wife, Vicky. And I mean, the hair, and I do have the hair that stood up. It stood up like it was the 80s when I heard him sing. It was the most amazing. He brought the house down. I mean, people were cheering and everything. And I'm going, I mean, I would have been in anyway, but I got so excited. And the fact that we didn't do it as a tribute to Tony, a magnificent talent, but that Alex could come in and do those vocals, because these guys are humble, because I'm the only one that doesn't play professionally anymore. And I'm like looking at these guys, even on the songs I wrote, and I'm like, the arrangements and Alex being able to put all this together. And Warren's got the original notes. When I can't remember something, I call him, he goes, oh yeah, here's the notes from the first recording. And I'm like, oh, this is great. But
so Warren's a hoarder, you're saying?
I still can't hit the
No, I'm Mal. I'm Mal from the Beatles, the guy that we didn't write them down as we were doing them because they had to be memorable. So that if you couldn't remember them, then it wasn't a good song. But later I had to write them down because there were so many, and there's no way I'm going to remember 30, 40 songs and back. Oh, remember this one we should do. No, so I had to write some things down. But
and bless you, Warren, because I'd be sitting there, trying to listen, trying to figure out the stuff I used to play or the stuff we played. But the other exciting thing is that Alex keeps finding, and I don't know why. I mean, it's not that I didn't want to archive this stuff, but I'm just blessed to work with these guys who it was so serious to them to keep this, whatever the legacy and the history is, and the fact that Alex keeps finding these songs, that I can't even remember that we wrote and we did. And not just mine, obviously, the Tony stuff, and Warren was a huge contributor to the riffing and the solos. And it's just such a blessing. I use that word truly because for me to go back and hear that and stuff that I'd forgotten, and I have senior moments too. I mean, that could be part of it. But anyway, I'm so excited because we're pulling new songs out for this show that a couple of them never been done live before. And we know they're good songs. But we're not saying that, when you go to see Bob Dylan, you're not going to hear the hits because that's Bob, he's going to do it. We're not good. We're not like that. We want to do the hits. We want to do the songs that are on radio. The last show we did, Mitch Michaels hosted. He's on a different radio station, but the Loop was a big part of our growth and stuff. And I keep going back to the support that we've got all these years from Chicago and how important that is. Mm-hmm. If that was in LA, no one would remember anything. Meaning the fans, and they come and go. In Chicago, there was those roots and that foundation. And so that's another reason why we agreed to do it. Let's just have fun. Let's just go out there. I know we'll be prepared and we'll play well, but more importantly, it's a celebration with our fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, you say you haven't been playing professionally. It's Warren, you have?
Professionally, just playing with cover bands. Nothing. Well, the only thing original that I've been involved with since here was some kind of an Irish group. The guy that was helping support his vision on some Irish stuff. Other than that, it's been just different styles of different things, and just still like playing the guitar, and it's just fun to get together with friends and make some music.
Now, when you left the band, say 83 or something, who took your place in playing guitar?
It was Manny Alvarez, who how long was actually Manny with the group? Because
3 years, I think. Yeah, right.
3 or 4 years. So.
Yeah, because then he moved out to Los Angeles as well, and ended up getting work. Well, I came out here and ended up seeing just how competitive the market was for players, and it's just some great people. And so playing and doing some different things with doing cover material with some great players that have been on records and sessions and all that sort of thing. But you've got to do something to make a living. And I decided after a bit that I just didn't feel like playing 7 nights a week, playing cover music, that I'd rather play some music that I was interested in playing. So I ended up in entertainment lighting. So touring concert stuff and on through that, which then goes on through lighting. But Manny ends up coming out here and looking to be a part of a group, ends up on the crew, and is doing production with all sorts of different touring groups. He's now with Counting Crows, who runs their crew. Before that was toured with
Jackson Brown.
And Bonnie Raitt. He plays with Bonnie Raitt. She brings him up for 5. Yeah. He was on Tonight Show with Bonnie Raitt, and he was playing guitar.
That's right. Because Manny's because of the all the groups, Counting Crows especially, is trying to get back playing. They've got dates, and so he's not going to be able to make this reunion show because they've got dates opening up. He's going to be traveling. So, but he was around for the one before. It was great. Hopefully we can begin to do some other things a little more regularly. I think now that COVID seems to be, I don't want to jinx it. It's
Don't say
things
it.
are opening
Don't
up a
say
bit.
Pandemic.
And hoping.
I want to add one thing about Chuck Schwartz. Chuck was a drummer. He was with us in the founding of the band, and he taught my brother Ed. And it's interesting because Chuck is still professional. He gigs more of a jobbing musician in sessions.
Mhm.
And my brother is going to play some of the songs that he played on originally, my brother Ed. And he's Jimmy Peterick's drummer.
I was going to
So-
say, I recognize the name.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I recognize his name.
Yeah, well, he's more famous than I'll ever be, but he's done all Peterick stuff. My brother calls me, goes, "Hey, I'm going to be on TV with Peterick, backing up, everybody from, the Starship to 38 Special, but he recorded with Dennis DeYoung as well. So he's done work on Dennis's solo stuff. So once again, the Chicago connection, and he was 5 tracks that we recorded. So he's going to be performing with us that night as well. Chuck will be the main drummer for all the Gambler stuff. And my brother Ed will be in somewhere in the middle of the show playing on some of the tracks he recorded.
Mhm.
So anyway, I want to get that in because Chuck is full-time musician. And so is my
It's
brother.
awesome. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, great.
And Alex is off at Abbey Road recording. They're I talk about professional. He sends me a thing. And, hey, this is this link. I just recorded with a symphony. With a symphony, was it, or a chord?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Strings?
Yeah,
Kind
a
of
little
like
bit,
Eleanor
yeah.
Rigby, and I'm at Abbey Road, and I'm like, okay, so
Sent pictures
Yeah.
from in Abbey Road, and
Yeah, that was
we
a
all look just
song.
like you did going Abbey Road. Oh my gosh.
It was something else walking in that room, let me tell you.
Yeah,
I bet it was.
yeah, very much. Well, and then your brother Bruce, who was the original keyboard player and played on played the reunion show. He's I think kind of he's got some health issues, but he's not going out. So he's just not comfortable going out to do this sort of thing. So we wanted to get a date on the books, and he's. Still would love to be doing some things with us, but it's not comfortable coming out and playing a date. So we
I get it.
had to get a replacement, someone sitting in playing keyboards for us.
Yeah, Tommy Learsheen. You guys must know Tommy Learsheen. He was in the Blues Brothers band in Chicago. He also with Peterick that World Stage. What's it called? World Stage?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he does some with the Ides of March. I think he sits in sometime. He's a Hammond endorsed player. If there's a big show in Chicago, Tommy's playing it. He's kind of the Hammond go-to guy. Been on 1,000 recordings and So he's and I've known Tommy since we went to high school together. He was
I didn't realize it went back that far.
a few years older than me, and Tommy is a wunderkind. Even as a kid, he would just sit down at the piano and play anything. Do you know the song? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He's pretty.
So Alex, are you originally from Chicago then?
Yeah. I grew up in Elmhurst. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about me for just a second here. It's, I am Gambler's biggest fan. Actually, I think I should say I am like the maniac who's been following them around since I was a little kid. My brother got in the band after Nathan left and was in the band quite a long time, and they wrote a gazillion songs together. I had a little cover band that he forced on Dell and Warren, where we would open up Gambler whenever we could, whether they liked it or not. And I literally would just, back then music was so different. It's such a shame kids don't really realize how cool music used to be. You would play 5 nights a week. When the drinking age was 18, you would play a Monday night and it'd be packed. Tuesday night, sure. Sunday, yeah, sure. Why not? And so I just followed Gambler around, and my brother, I was just his little sidekick. So whenever they played, if I wasn't playing, or even if I was playing, I was in the front row watching. And I was a sponge. My brother taught me to be a sponge of music, And I was telling the guys at rehearsal, I was in LA last week and we were rehearsing, and I literally would sit there. I would just say, okay, today's Warren Mays Day. And I would sit in front of Warren and I would just stare at him. I would just watch every single thing he would play. And I would go home and play these licks. Da, da, and if I didn't know it, Warren, what? How did you play that? And I went, what? Yeah, okay, you play it like this. I got to get dressed. No, I'll find you in the dressing room. How did you play it like this? I hound these guys. And then the second night, I'd watch Bruce on keyboards. And Bruce taught me, this lick. I still play it. That was the first lick he taught me on. You guys can hear it. And then I'd move over and I'd watch Chuck play the drums. And then I'd move over and I'd watch Dell. I would just rotate. Okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
And he plays all of them. He plays all of them, drums included.
Yeah. And, when Tony was working on songs or writing songs, and when these guys were in the studio for a long time, we had a little demo studio set up in our house. It was 3 floors of equipment and control rooms. And that's all we did. I would ditch school. I would say my mom would drop me off at school, and then I would literally run home around the back way. Sometimes she'd cross in front of me, didn't know it was me. So I could get down to the basement. I'd climb through the window and hide in the basement so I could watch these guys record. And I was just a whole thing. So me singing with this band is so bittersweet because I don't start crying. Sorry. I'd much rather be sitting in the front row watching my brother sing than be up there. But they say you can't go back to your childhood. You can't. But when I get together with these guys, I certainly can. It's something special. The music is amazing. The arrangements are amazing. The tunes are effing hard to sing, but I'm having a blast.
Seems like what Del said, U-Tran brought this to light, right? And brought the reunion thing around, right?
Yeah, I kind of, as guys in my band, I'm still a professional musician, and guys in my band, they always call me like the Terminator. I kind of keep going. I don't stop. I got the yes from all these guys. They didn't probably realize exactly what they were saying.
What we were getting into.
What I got them into. But I'm in my recording studio right now, just to show you how much of a Gambler fan I am. There it is.
Yep.
Oh, you got the big poster. Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's one of the album covers. And when my brother, we had to bring him home from California. He had Lou Gehrig's disease and came home to die. That was hanging on his wall. And I said, we got to bring that home. And he's like, what do you want that for? I'm like, I'm taking that fucking poster home. And we did. And we put it on the back of a truck, and I brought it home because I knew one day it'd hang up in my studio.
You may have one of the only ones left. I don't know.
I think
one thing you said, Alex, it's really true about, we're not being nostalgic about stuff, because if you listen to just even the Super Bowl, the artists, they're all good. They're all talented. But people say, oh, is rock dead? Rock and roll. It's not at all. It's dominating. Young kids are buying vinyl. It's not nostalgic for them. I'm still in the music business. I have a marketing company, and I work with the Hendrix Estate. I work with Stevie Ray Vaughan Estate, but I work with young bands too. And when we look at it, I just saw a band. I sent it to you guys. Our band called Dirty Honey, and they're out here in LA, and they're exactly what would be in the 80s. They would exactly be what you would hear. Great vocals, and the musicianship is par excellence. Mm-hmm. And they made a comment. Wolfgang Van Halen opened the show, and they both made the comment. They play everything. There's no lip syncing. There's no dancing going on. There's not spectacle, and that's
there's no tracks
of the 80s, right? That you wrote your music.
No tracks.
You played it, right? You'd be able to play it. And they always say, oh yeah, they played their own songs. But I watched I'm horrified. I watched Dick Clark's non-rockin' New Year's Eve, and there wasn't one band that actually played. The only thing 2 years ago that was rock was Post Malone fell off the stage and because he was drunk, and Ryan Seacrest goes, oh, he didn't see himself. The next day, Post Malone goes, no, I was drunk. And I'm like, that's like, he would have fallen off the stage.
Pretty rock and roll. Yeah.
It's rock and roll, Right. And even if we get older, as we get older, we appreciate, once again, it's not nostalgic, because if you want to, we were in Memphis at Sam Phillips studio, and they were remastering all Jackson Browne's records. And, in originally, going back to remaster, and they just had John Prine's catalog there. In fact, they still had John Prine's car, his Cadillac. And, but the point was, there's 2 to 3 year wait if you want to master vinyl, of the top notch, the audio file. And it can't be guys like me, but I have all those records and I'll buy some, but the Beatles were just number one and they got knocked off the charts by David Bowie, and the Beatles, obviously, because of Let It Be, but it's that my daughter's growing up. We all have daughters. I have a granddaughter too. And they rediscover that music because the internet opens a door that it's real to them now, even if the artist is not here. I asked my daughter who's the number one artist at School of Rock. She ran the biggest School of Rock in Oak Park. Now she has her own in Colorado. And she said, Jimi Hendrix. And I'm like, oh, really? And okay, Jimi Hendrix is the most artist that they emulate. And who's next? And they go, Queen. Oh, well, Bohemian Rhapsody, got reintroduced. I worked on that movie. I did instruments. I'll do a plug on that one because we never knew it was going to be that big, but a whole new generation rediscovered Queen. I said, well, what about younger bands? She goes, well, the Foo Fighters and the Chili Peppers. And I go, well, that's not a younger band. I mean, to me it is, but those guys are, aren't there any young bands?
They've been around for a while, right?
Yeah.
People want the real music. So whether we see it on TV or we see it on, anywhere, it's there. And the concerts that are going out, people want the live music, no doubt. And I don't need to tell you that, but that's why we don't think it's nostalgic. We think it's almost a celebration. If we could do this music and we could still pull it off, if we can't, we won't do it. We're not going to do it. We're not going to embarrass ourselves. So I might, but you guys won't.
Tonight I saw 1,000 faces, but they always look the same. I sit and dream of far-off places where maybe I could change my name. It's no good. It's no good. This midnight madness in the city.
Now, what happened to Nathan? Didn't Nathan go to California too?
Yes, he did. About the same time, Warren. I think he.
Probably about the same time. We ran into one another a time or two back then, but I haven't seen him or been in touch with him in since just a few years after we got here, so the mid '80s. So he's around, but we just never got in touch, and I don't think he was playing. I was still, sort of family and other things going on, but just playing with friends, playing cover songs once a month, kind of a thing, just to keep interest, keep our hands in it in some ways. But I don't think he was doing that, or I probably would have run into him. So I'm not sure what he's up to at this point.
Yeah, and to do the Gambler shows, to be fair, we felt Tony was equally as important, in some ways even more, because he brought a new side to the band. Now, Nathan was great, don't get me wrong, and we loved working with Nathan. But when Tony joined, he had a different concept. Like, I'm listening to some of the songs that we did together, and he encouraged my songwriting to change. Because in the era of the 80s, a lot of stuff like Survivor and Gambler and Foreigner, and we all had a sound that was kind of like that 80s sound, that big sound. And Tony really pushed us as a group to try other avenues, even in songwriting. We're doing a song called Lost in the Night, and it's about homelessness, and we did that in the 80s. And I'm thinking, that's unbelievable that we would even think of that stuff. So we feel that as much as we like Nathan, that was only one part of the band that we wouldn't be able to duplicate, or at least, do it to justice to what Tony did. And so Alex, with his voice, his incredible voice, he's able to do both sides. And we're so lucky to have Warren that can hit those high notes. Warren, I don't even know how you can, you still, he can do it. I was at the rehearsal. I was in awe. But if that makes sense, we feel that this is the best presentation of what the band represents, what we are and what we were. And so I really do feel that we probably wouldn't have been able to do the same thing with Nathan. I did.
The continuation of the band, the newer songs that Nathan wasn't involved in was I think where the band would have gone, did go.
Yeah.
I did go. But then music changed. So didn't quite get an opportunity, the same opportunity as we had before to for a record deal. But the songs, it really is nice to get back and hear, as Kel was saying, some of them almost forgotten about some of them, but they sound familiar when you hear them. And then the more we put them together, going, there was some great, just some really good songs, really songs that we should be proud of.
Do you have any recordings with Tony?
Yeah, we have a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
What the guys don't know is I have a plan for us when we're done with this concert to do something.
I think Tommy might have a plan too, because he's heard the music, and I know you relate to us that he's like, man, this stuff should be recording. But
there are a lot of songs. It's if you're a fan of Gambler and you saw them, live, there were a lot of songs, so many songs past the first two albums. As Tony was in the band and the band kept playing, more and more of those songs from the first two albums kind of got, not because they were bad, but kind of got pushed aside because all this new music was coming, right? I mean, I think by maybe a couple of years into it, I think you're only playing a couple of songs from the album because they had written so many other great songs that needed to be heard and gone into the studio and did some recordings. My little dream is that we all go in the studio, re-record these songs, get these new songs re-recorded or put out songs that Tony sang on that were done in the big studio. There were a lot of demos that were done, just to get the song down. Del and Tony, I know you say this, yeah, sure, but they were like Lennon and McCartney. They would all day long, every single day. Del would come to the house. Hey, look at this place. And Tony, oh yeah, well look at this. Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We would just start to trade, And it really was a war, a friendly,
a battle. Yeah.
I got this thing. Look, what do you think of that? Yeah, and Tony's like, oh yeah, listen. And they were looking, God, dude. But then they say, you know what? Hey, it helps us both because we're writing great songs. It was really cool. And for I'm a songwriter and so forth. And for me, it was once again a lesson in how to write.
It's been a day or two since you walked through the door. I can't remember when it's hurt this bad before, 'cause it seems I keep holding on. Why? I guess that I want.
There's so much more music. Cheap Trick, this I think this last weekend they're in Las Vegas right now. I think they're doing 5 nights and they're playing 5 different albums. And we could so do that. Just play the stuff we're playing March 26th at Nelly's at 8:00. We could get together and play a whole nother set and do another 2-hour show. And then the next night do another 2. It's amazing. The music is amazing.
Do you have any plans of any other shows while you're here in Chicago? Or?
We're gonna, this show has been in the making for three years. We were doing a show a year after the reunion show, and COVID hit, and it's just to do this in June one year, and then it got moved to October. It got moved to March. It got moved to October. So we want to get this show together, and we've been talking about things, but everybody's everywhere. Del's traveling, Warren's traveling, I'm going around, so. I mean, I'd like to do it. That's our goal, is to keep playing. We have a lot of fun. And the less rehearsing we have to do.
And so what kind of reaction we get to this show as well. It's if it's anything at all like the one we did before, there was a lot of interest then. And flying's getting easier again. So we'll see. Well, it's getting more expensive. Where'd
you do the last show at?
That was at Wire. Do you guys know a place, Wire in Berwyn? It closed.
Berwyn, yeah.
Yeah.
But I was worried before that show because I didn't go outside because I'd called some friends of mine that were fans of the band, and some of my friends from California actually came to the show, and they thought one of the songs we did, Andy, they thought it was a hit single as one of Tony's songs. And I remember people that didn't know that I was really in that band, and they traveled out. But I was calling everybody because I was worried. Well, what if nobody remembers us? And the advance tickets were pretty good. We did pretty well. But I remember sitting in a dressing room worried because I called one of my friends and I'm like, hey, you coming to the show? And he's like, oh, I don't drive anymore. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't drive anymore? I mean, I'm older, but, I drive. I said, take Uber. And he's like, what's Uber? I'm like, oh, no. I'm dating myself. I'm like, oh, my God.
That was 4 years ago. So, yeah.
I think, Alex, you came in or something. You go, man, it's so great out there. It's all packed and everything. And I would have been disappointed not in anything but that I wanted the most people to be able to see us because I was proud of it, but I wasn't worried about it. I wasn't like, oh, if nobody shows up, whatever. And so we want to do the best. And I'm not being overly humble, but when I walked out on stage, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. And the fans went with it because they didn't hear some of the songs. There were some new fans. And so we want to recreate that feeling. We want to recreate that celebration of what it was, And people will send on our website, Alex, when you posted stuff, people were putting, I used to see the band. Yeah. And the girls, it's always Warren with the girls too. It's like,
what the hell's going on?
So I could sit in front of Warren the whole night, which is good, And I'm like, I think he's better looking now. You should, come to the show now.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. No. No, there were a huge amount of familiar faces, people we hadn't seen in 35 years. One of those, but it showed up at the thing somewhere. Some were friends, people that people that knew, hometown and family and others. But then there were people that were coming up and going, hey, Warren, remember this? I'm from Fatty Arbuckle's, and the face actually familiar. And yes, and did this. Oh my gosh, hadn't thought about them in all this time. Hadn't been anywhere near, and yet they all remembered. It was all just the way music does. It takes you back to what you were doing when you first heard that song and that you liked. It's the same sort of thing. And didn't get across the country, so we didn't have not much of it got all the way across the country. But for a lot of people in the Chicago Fox River Valley area was some good memories from way back. Some good times.
Yeah. I think I saw you guys at PJ Flaherty's. I think it was.
Yeah.
PJ Flaherty's. I know that place.
We
played
pretty much anywhere for quite a while there.
We played. We had to play. We had a road crew and a truck and a limo. Remember, we bought. There was a group called The Flock, and they were in a different generation, but great band. And we bought their limo when they broke up. And I remember we'd pull up nothing was open at night except White Castle. Remember that, Warren? We couldn't eat pennies. But when we were really poor, we'd have to go to White Castle and we'd pull up in a limousine, and people were like, oh my God, it's a famous band. We go out, line up in White Castle. But
it was a really old limousine, but nonetheless, yeah.
But those memories
vintage now.
You guys, those memories are like really good. And I want to share this with your audience too. So because I was at Fender, I really had, I was so lucky to end up at Fender. And I worked with a lot of these bands, Tommy Shaw with Styx, I'd see him, or Cheap Trick was a good one because Tom Peterson, we had with our Gretsch division, he had a 12-string bass, which he used to do with Hamer. And he came to NAMM, and I saw him, and I said, "Hey, I just want to tell you." I go, "You guys played, I think it was MacArthur's Park or one of them with us, and they didn't want people to know it was them. They wanted to run down some new songs, and so they called themselves the Randy Men."
Yeah,
the Randy Men, and everybody knew who they were. And I told Tom, I go, Tom, that was so cool, but I had an 8-string Hamer, but you had a 12-string Hamer, and I had such a hard time, playing it. And he goes, "You pussy," excuse me. He goes, "You can't play a 12-string." I go, "You were really good. That was your sound." And he goes, "Remember Night Gallery?" Remember, he was going down the list of Haymakers and all the places that we either saw them or we played with them. And then the other one was Kevin Cronin. I mentioned Alpine Valley. I did a charity event, and the guitar player in REO Dave Amato was a signature, I think his signature artist with Fender. Anyway, he said, hey, the band will sign, come to the show, we'll sign the guitar for this charity, music education. So I go, and Kevin's there, and I go up and I go, normally I wouldn't cross the business line of, but I had to tell him, I said, he signed, he was really nice and glad to do it. And I said, hey, Kevin, I was in a band called Gambler. We opened for you. And he goes, Alpine Valley, 24,000 people a night.
Wow, that's awesome.
My God, and I think no matter where you go, it takes the boy out of Chicago, but certainly, that era and those bands, it was just, and I'm not saying it isn't now, but it was magic. It was magic.
Yeah.
So you guys have a website, right?
It's our Facebook page.
Your Facebook page, okay.
Facebook page, yeah.
So it's just Gambler. Or Gambler
Just
band.
Gambler, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So people find
Ticket link is up there now for tickets for the show. There's old pictures, some new pictures, and some surprises coming down in the next couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Looking forward to this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
That's great.
Be nice to see a few other shows.
Say it again.
Be nice to see a few more shows after that.
We're gonna try. We have some things in the works we're trying to work out, but
things are just beginning to open up. It's
right.
Difficult in fact, you weren't even sure that until
this was going to happen. Yeah.
The last couple of weeks that this could even it could have been no, we can't do the show, or it's so limited to how many people we can have that it's not worth it. So
right.
Yeah,
but
I've been holding my breath.
It's opening up, and if it keeps going like it is, then we're good. Be fun.
So you'll be doing some songs from Teenage Magic and Love and Other Crimes, as well as other new stuff, newer stuff.
New things that'll be coming along. Who knows? Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, wish you guys the best of luck.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you so much for having us.
Right. Okay, so that was some of the guys from Gambler. That was Del and Warren and Alex. Alex sounds like he's kind of put this whole thing back together for them. Huh?
Yeah,
he's kind of the young guy in the group.
He's the young guy in the group.
Yes,
he's not only part of the group, but he's definitely a fan.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Has been his entire life. I mean, this is like a dream come true for him. And it sounds like he's going to keep pushing them to do more and more and more.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you're a fan and part of the band, you can do that, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure the show will be really good. That's coming up this Saturday,
right.
May 26th.
This Saturday, May 26th.
March 26th. I'm sorry, not May.
March. I said, and I followed your lead and said May too.
You did.
It's March 26th, this Saturday.
At
so
Dirty
be sure
Nellies.
At Dirty Nellies. So be sure and get your tickets now, folks, and show them some love. Show them the love that they deserve.
Tell them Paul and Ray the Roadie sent you.
That's right.
Maybe we'll even see you there.
We might. You never know.
That's right. Maybe we're on the guest list.
You think?
We are celebrities.
And we didn't talk to them about getting on the guest list.
Yeah, you just think naturally they would do it. I mean, it's us.
Yes, that's right.
Well, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, be sure and go to roadtorock.org and sign up to be a charter member at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum
On Route 66.
Yes, and be sure to check us out if you like this show, this podcast. Check out our many other ones.
Many. We are in the hundreds. We have hundred episodes.
Yes, a little over 100.
Hello. I've had a few things, a little bit too much to drink, I guess.
So
I'm joking.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music that's played on this podcast.
The music is used to promote the band or musicians that are interviewed.
Rock and roll, Chicago. Rock and roll.